So there I was, a short, unathletic, 8-year-old kid, standing nervously at home plate in a tie game of kickball at Mason Rice Elementary in Newton, Massachusetts. All I wanted to do that day was kick that ball so far that I could make it around the bases, score the winning run, and be a hero for my team. I remember the pitcher hurtling that red playground ball towards me, running at it with all my might, swinging my leg as hard as I could, and managing a pathetic, weak little dribbler right back to the pitcher who scooped it up and threw it to first, and I was out by a mile. As I made that long, humiliating trudge back to the dugout, I was consumed by this one maddening thought. If only I wasn't wearing these decoratively stitched red leather sandals, maybe I would have been able to kick the damn ball. Yes, that was me, a first-generation Croatian-American trying to navigate the murky waters of second grade. We hear a lot about immigration these days, but much of it is just angry rhetoric. This has led me to reflect on my life and the experiences I had growing up in an immigrant family. And it's made me realize all of the positive impacts it had on my life. And given that most, if not all of you, have a relative who've come from someplace else, I think it's something we can all reflect on. My parents came here in 1968 from Croatia. At that time, it was still part of Yugoslavia, and it was under a communist government. Life was hard. They came here like so many generations before them, seeking freedom, opportunity, and to give their children a better life than they had growing up. I'll always be grateful for the risks that they took in coming here. They had no money. They had no connections. They had no USA 500. But what they did have is an education and an unshakable drive to succeed. And I know I saw them make so many personal sacrifices along the way to achieve their dreams, and I couldn't be prouder of everything they did achieve. While they never spoke about it, because they were pretty reserved, I understood from them that they fully believed that assimilating into U.S. society was important to them. So while we still kept those great Croatian traditions, which I'm sure you're also familiar with, at home, on the 4th of July, we grilled cheeseburgers, and my parents, who never drank beer, drank Budweiser. At Thanksgiving, my mother made this amazing traditional turkey spread, and my dad would even sit down with me and try to watch baseball, even though the game was incomprehensible to him. And I still remember him saying, "Why are those guys running around in their pajamas?" But it was through this progressive attitude that they had that they were able to seamlessly adapt to a culture that was so different from the one they left behind. Unfortunately for me, this progressive attitude didn't quite translate into everything. Things like dressing and feeding me somehow got lost in the translation. So, in addition to those lovely red sandals, I wore brown or black socks. The thinking being that those white tube socks that every kid wore with the stripes, those showed their dirt too easily. And no matter how nice a day it was, I always had to wear a sweater, a thick wool sweater, usually stitched by my grandmother. And because in my family, we didn't throw away perfectly good clothing, Mark. My sweaters were hand-me-downs from my sister. So I was awash in this sea of pastels, light pinks, yellows, light blues. Good times. Fun going to school like that. Lunch was an interesting experience for me. Lunch back in the 70s was pretty uniform for most kids. Sandwich on Wonder Bread, chips, a Hostess product for dessert, and chocolate milk in your thermos. Then there was my lunch. Let's just say it had zero trade value. My bread was 7-grain caraway seed-infused baguettes piled high with European cured meats and cheeses no one had ever heard of, like mortadella and Jarlsberg. Instead of chips, I had sliced green bell peppers, and I had a nutritious piece of fruit instead of a Twinkie. In my thermos, refreshing, lukewarm tap water. My parents apparently didn't get the memo that we had nice cold water fountains at school. But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst was the liverwurst sandwich. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure, liverwurst is this pink, blobby, glowing spread, like a love child between Spam and radioactive matter. For those unfortunate few who had no choice but to sit next to me at the lunch table, apparently it had the added bonus of wafting out a cat food-like aroma. Even my lunchbox was weird. Kids had sports teams and superheroes. I kid you not, I had a U.S. Post Office lunchbox. A little postman, caricature of a postman running around, grinning wildly like he was in on the joke too. All right. So why am I telling you this other than to publicly humiliate myself? I'm telling you this because these experiences actually had a positive impact on my life. They led me to be more independent. From an early age, I started packing my own lunch. At 12, I got a job as a caddy at a country club so I could buy some of my own school clothes. Because I was relegated to the bottom rung of the elementary school social ladder, I met my best friend Sabin there, whose family was from Italy, and he also brought in weird lunches. And my other two best and lifelong friends, Brian and Mike, well, they were normal, but I think they just took pity on me, as they taught me how to hold a baseball bat or throw a football. As I transitioned to middle school, it was also helpful. Middle school, if you have kids going through it now or remember yourself, it's a horribly awkward time. Unless you've spent all of elementary school feeling really awkward, then it's not such a bad transition. I was okay with it. In high school, I started to become more curious about my family's past. I started to be drawn to it more than trying to distance myself from it. My father's family that's Jewish, it's an amazing story that he and his parents made it out of World War II alive. And this curiosity led to a real interest and love of history, which was my major in college. After college, I embarked on a pretty traditional legal career, and then 9/11 happened. And my daughter was born that very same morning. And I wanted to serve my country. So for me, the logical choice was the Foreign Service. As a member of the diplomatic corps, I felt well equipped to proudly represent our government overseas, but still understand the importance of recognizing other countries' values and viewpoints. And one of my favorite lasting memories of my father was seeing the look of pride in his face as I was sworn in as a U.S. Foreign Service officer. These days, my wife, who is amazing, not Croatian, but still amazing, it's okay, makes traditional Croatian meals at our house so well that even my mother, who's a pretty tough judge, has given them the stamp of approval. And our kids, we've taken our kids to Croatia several times, and they can't wait to go back. But I do draw the line at the red sandals. My son will never wear red sandals, only Air Jordans for that kid. So at the end of the day, as I look back on this, I actually think, you know what, my experience is not that unique. I'm sure if all of you look back into your own personal family histories, you'll find some sort of a liverwurst sandwich story in there somewhere. Maybe not so bad, but right, what are we? We are generations and generations of people coming over here, learning to assimilate, but doing it in their own unique way, being influenced by where they came. And I think that common experience that binds us all as Americans is really unique, and I don't think any other country can match it. So when I hear immigration, I don't hear a dirty word. I see it as a gift. I see it as a vital link between our past and our future.